Sometimes it looks like learning your friend died to gun violence, and then later you have to sit in class and write an essay about how you see yourself in a character from The Great Gatsby. So sometimes when you're told to be an engineer or a doctor or an astronaut, it can feel like people asking that question are speaking to someone else and that it's not meant for you. But they are speaking to you, because sometimes the gravity of our circumstances, the weight of our environment, keep our eyes onto the ground. It discourages us from looking up, from daring to dream, from looking out, from looking within ourselves, and to recognize the brilliance that we each carry. Sometimes we even fail to look behind us, preventing us from seeing how far we have come as individuals, and from seeing those that have come before us, trailblazing paths we were told should not exist. Because if we did, we would see our ancestors' wildest dreams. We would see that we are their prize. We are the fruits from their bruised hands. We are history in the making. Sometimes our dreams feel so out of reach they look like sea foam and look like cirrus clouds. But those who come before us have already shown us our own potential. We have Katherine Johnson, a Black woman, a human computer who calculated trajectories that carried men into space. While the world tried to keep her grounded, and history tried to make her a hidden figure, we see her now for who she is. We have Ellen Ochoa, the first Latina astronaut. She opened doors that weren't built with her in mind. She shattered glass ceilings just to stand amongst the stars. Jose Hernandez, our astronaut, a migrant worker denied from NASA 11 times consecutively. But still, he never believed that his dream was out of reach. Their paths weren't easy, but they were worth it because they paved the path for us to chase our dreams as well. And I dream of a world where people like me and you, we build bridges, instead of the world we're in now where we're constantly trying to burn them down. I dream of a world where there are open doors to opportunity instead of borders built around them. I want the American dream for all of us, and not just some Americans. And I've already begun to realize some of my dreams. I'm a poet, I'm an artist, I'm a geologist. And I'm dreaming of so much more. And I hope you dare to dream big as well. I hope that inside every single one of you, there's a washing machine, or a volleyball, or an astronaut waiting to be born. Thank you.
Thank you, Darius, for sharing your story with us and setting the stage for the powerful intersection of education, possibility, and community in a person's life. And now it is my honor to introduce tonight's keynote speaker. We know that Jose Hernandez, he is amazing. We know that his story is one of determination, perseverance, and vision. Born right here in French Camp, he grew up in a migrant farming family, traveling back and forth, working in the fields right alongside his family. He didn't learn English until he was 12. He dared to dream big. And I bet so many of you already know that part of the story because you probably saw the movie, you probably read the book, you probably heard a podcast, because the truth is so many of us are showing up here today because we are so excited and so proud for our homegrown hero and astronaut. So I'm going to stop talking so that you can hear the rest of his story from him on this very momentous occasion and day in NASA history. Please put your hands together and welcome our Dr. Jose Hernandez to the stage.
¿Cómo estamos? Good? All right, happy to be here with you guys. And, I came from Pennsylvania this morning. had a talk at Penn State last night. Y aquí estamos. You know, and so if you see me a little tired, you know why. 6 hours flight from Pennsylvania to San Francisco. But we are here. We're happy to be here because if you take anything away from today, I like to say it in Spanish because it sounds better. Se vale soñar en grande. It means you can dream big. You can dream big. All you have to do is make a commitment to yourself. Not be afraid of hard work. Get yourself an education because that's the great equalizer. And in doing so, sky's not the limit, guys. It's the stars. I'm living proof of that. So strap on that virtual seatbelt, because just like Artemis just took off, we're going to take off on a journey ourselves too. So where does my story begin at? Well, it doesn't begin there. My story begins, you guys know the story, I'm a migrant farm working family, come from a migrant farm working family. My father came to this country as a 15-year-old, established a 3-stop routine in Southern California, Central California, and Northern California. Stockton was the last stop. And he did this every year since he was 15, up until when I was about 12, 13. We did this every year. When he's 18, he meets my mom in La Piedad, Michoacan. And I don't know, I guess they saw stars. They fell in love, so they got married. And my dad brings my mom along this nomadic lifestyle. With any marriage, they have kids. There's 4 of us. You only see 3 because my oldest brother took the picture. But then after him is my sister, the young lady in the middle. And then it's my Irish twin brother on the right side. I call him Irish twin because he's 11 months older than me. And then it's yours truly, the youngest. I'm the one with the hat. And this is how we grew up. This is exactly how we grew up. Now, it wasn't easy at first because imagine me going to kindergarten. First stop, Chino, California. Only there 2 months I get to know my name of my teacher and where the bathroom's at. Y vámonos, go to Salinas. Another 2 months, another kindergarten teacher. Barely learn her name and where the bathroom is. Y vámonos to Stockton. Here we stay 5 months, so I get to know the name of my teacher. I know where the bathroom's at. Pero ¿qué creen? Now nos vamos a Mexico. We go to Mexico. So my dad asks us about a week before we go, kids, get 3 months worth of homework from your teachers. Because in Mexico, you don't go to school, you're going to self-study. And my mom was the enforcer. She would wake us up every morning, Monday through Friday, in mi abuelita's kitchen. It was all the hot chocolate you can drink, all the pan dulce you can eat, but you will do your homework Monday through Friday from 8 in the morning to noon. And I credit my mom for giving us those study habits we would so badly need when I went to high school, college, and graduate school. So that was our life. Now imagine I'm in the 2nd grade. Last stop here in Stockton, November. My dad gets up, same announcement. Muchachos, we're going to Mexico, get your homework for 3 months. And you gotta understand my dad. My dad was old school. You know, short on words, rápido with the cinto, with the belt. He was the disciplinarian in the family. And when he said that, we said, yes, Dad. I was in the 2nd grade. I did it in kindergarten, 1st grade. I knew the routine. My brothers are older than me. They knew the routine even better. So I lived on the east side of Stockton. on Vine and E Street. And I went to Fillmore. It was about a mile away. In those days, you could make your kids walk a mile away. Nowadays, you make them walk a mile away, you get arrested for child endangerment. So there we go to school that day. I go to my second grade teacher, and I ask her. My second grade teacher is Miss Young. What can I say about Miss Young? Young, she was young, black hair, bonita. Very nice lady. Did I say she was pretty? Who's your first crush? Second grade teacher, I confess. It was me and Miss Young. So I go into the class and I told her, Miss Young, I'm going to Mexico next week. My dad asked me if you can give me 3 months worth of homework. She looks at me with a frustrated look. You gotta understand the frustration. This is the 4th time she's doing this for the Hernandez family. I guess 4th time was the charm. Me dice, you tell your parents that I'm gonna come home and visit them. We need to talk. Man, I got scared. Yeah, you're a Latino. You never want your teacher to come to your house, right? I remember that day, usually, I'm the youngest, second grade. We get out of school about 5 minutes before the other classes. And usually I hang around in the hallway, waiting for my siblings and we walk home. Not that day, she's made. I had some big news. So I remember, as soon as school was out, I hightailed it home by myself. I felt like Paul Revere. The teacher's coming. And I get home, and my parents always pride themselves in being home before we get out of school. That was no different that day. I opened the door, and the first person in La Salita, the little living room that I run into, you guessed it, Pops. And my dad, especially after work, he's always grouchy in a bad mood. And there he was taking off his belt, his boots, dirty boots and everything. And I tell my dad, oye, papi. Yes, son. So I said, hey, I talked to my teacher, Miss Young, and guess what? What? She said she's going to come over in 20 minutes because she wants to talk to you about, I didn't finish about. When he gets up, and he starts taking off his belt. You see, my dad has a different judicial system than the U.S. judicial system. Let me explain it. It's pretty easy. He likes to jump to conclusions, apply punishment, and then he says, what happened? And I said, I'm not going to get whipped for something I didn't do, so I'm backing out, spilling out, see what sticks in the wall. Finally, the fact we're going to Mexico. But he tells me, you better be telling the truth. Because if you're not, it's going to go double. And my dad was the type of person that he gave it to you double, plus interest. So, man, I said, man, I hope Miss Young doesn't rat me out for something. And no, viene Miss Young that day. Well, before that, I have become a mom now, right? And where is my mom? In the kitchen, because her routine was she would make us a snack right after school. We would sit down in the kitchen, and we would eat. But that was just a trap, because then she wouldn't let us get up until we cracked open our books and did our homework. I credit her with giving us the study habits we would so much need in high school, college, and graduate school. So, and she was different than, she is different than mi papá. It's like yin and yang. She's the caring, nurturing one. Mijito esto, mijito lo otro. And I remember I told her that the teacher was coming as she was making tortillas. And she put on that Macaulay Culkin. What? The teacher's coming. We have to sweep and mop. Tenemos que arreglar la casa. And I gotta feed her. I gotta cook up a storm. Oh man, I loved it. I loved when we had company. I remember my dad used to say, va a venir tu tío. uncle's coming. Translation, we're gonna eat meat. Yeah, we somehow, especially during the winter time when there wasn't a lot of work, I had my fair share of rice, beans, salsa, tortillas. Pero when we had visita, the protein magically appeared. In terms of a thin steak or some chicken, pork chop, something like that, And that day was no different. We ate good. But then my dad invites Miss Young to the sala, the living room. My mom brings a cafecito, and they drag me along. Why did they drag me along? Well, in those days, my dad could not, and mom could not speak English. Miss Young did not speak Spanish, so who was the official translator in la familia? The kids, right? And my dad wanted me specifically, because it was my teacher, he wanted me to face up to any complaint. So there I am translating everything. Miss Young sipping her coffee, thanks my mom for a lovely dinner. And she said, I didn't come here to eat, but thank you very much for the meal, it was very good. So I came here to talk about the education process of your 4 kids. Man, my dad immediately went stoic and enojado. If you can see his neck, you can see an artery pulsating. And Miss Young noticed the change in his demeanor. And she tried to calm him down. Said, no, it was nothing bad, It's actually good. I've had the privilege of having your 4 kids in my class, and let me tell you, they're all college bound. Right now, I have your youngest, Jose, and let me tell you, they're all college bound. I said, but the fact that you move around, you move 3 different school districts a year, my dad said, well, hang on, Miss Young. Look, we're not like, yes, my wife and I only have a 3rd grade education. Yes, we're migrant farm workers. But when there's school, my kids are in school. Or they're self-study. And then Miss Young said, yes, Mr. Hernandez, I understand that, but you move around 3 different school districts in 1 school year. You know what my dad's response was? What's the problem? We move on a Saturday. We didn't miss any school. And then Miss Young said, but then you go to Mexico for 3 months. And my dad said, Señorita, you're the one that prepares their homework. Are you not giving them the right homework? Throws it back on her. And Miss Young is frustrated. She sees she cannot get through to my dad. She was so frustrated that she thought for a while. So much so that you ever had one of those where you're having a conversation with someone you barely know, and then there's that awkward silence. Kind of like this one. Well, we had that awkward silence. Then I saw her crack half a smile, as if she got an idea. And she did something brilliant. She puts my dad up in a pedestal. She looks at my dad with great admiration. She said, Senor, your kids tell me that you've been working in agriculture since you were 15 years old. Is that true? And mi papá, very proud man. Sí, of course, sí, señorita, desde los 15, ya. And Miss Young looks at him with even greater admiration. Wow. That must make you an expert on anything related to agriculture. Oh man, you didn't have to tell that to my dad. Luego se para el cuello. Well, Miss Young, I'm not sure I could be considered an expert, but what can I do for you? Se prestó. Miss Young then gave a full smile because he took the bait. She said, look, Mr. Hernandez, I'm going to give you an agricultural problem that I think is going to help both of us. Help me solve this, please. My dad said, okay, what's the problem? She said, look, I'm going to give you a fruit tree and a potted plant. I want you to find the best ground here, dig a hole, and you plant it there. I want you to take care of it. You're gonna water it, fertilize it, whatever it needs, like the expert that you are. Can you do that? But that's it. Easy peasy, claro que sí. Then Mr. Young said, you know, in 3 months, I want you to find another piece of ground. Dig a hole. Remember that tree you had over there? He says, see, I want you to transplant it. My dad has a puzzled look. So why would she want me to transplant a tree in 3 months? And I want you to water it and take care of it. Can you do that? My dad starts asking why, and she says, no, can you just do that for me? My dad finally said, okay. I don't know why, but see. Great, Mr. Hernandez. And you know what? In another 3 months, what's more, every 3 months I want you to transplant that same tree. And you're always going to take care of it. You who are an expert in agriculture, what happens to that tree? Well, my dad knew the answer right away. He said, Señorita, that's easy. He said, the tree's not going to die because you're taking care of it. But you're going to stunt its growth. Se va a quedar chico, it's going to stay small, dwarf. If it's a fruit tree, it probably won't even bear fruit. Why? Because a tree needs to be in one place so the roots can grow deep. And then for theatrical measure, he raises his hands so the branches can grow big and strong. You could hold that for 2 seconds. His facial expression changed. As they say in mi rancho, le cayó el 20. He realized he'd been had. His facial expression was one where he got his hand caught in a cookie jar. He realized that example served as an example of what he was doing to his kids with respect to education. And my dad's a very proud man, but I give him a lot of credit because he looked at Miss Young and said, oh, is that what you mean? Miss Young said, that's what I mean. I think my job is done. So she got up and excused herself. I'll tell you, that year we still went to Mexico. It was already scheduled. But something happened. Instead of staying 3 months, we stayed 3 weeks centered around Christmas vacation. On our 2.5-day drive from Michoacan, we arrived in Southern California y no paramos, we didn't stop. We went through Central California, didn't stop at Salinas. We went straight, we stopped. All of a sudden, stopping became our only stop. We started to get traction in our education. Started to learn the English language and the materials. And you guys could probably say, okay, Jose, that's fine and dandy, but how in the heck does a farm worker who lives at or near poverty dare to dream to become an astronaut? And I'm telling you, that dream was born when I was 10 years old. 1972, December, the very last Apollo mission, Apollo 17. None other than Gene Cernan walking on the moon. Imagine a 10-year-old kid holding on to a rabbit ear antennas to improve reception of a black and white console TV. That was me. And there I could see Gene Cernan walking on the moon. I would go outside, see the moon almost full. Come back inside here, the reporter still remember his name, Walter Cronkite, narrating that. And that's when I said that he soy yo. This is what I want to do. At 10 years old, I knew what I wanted to do. I shared that dream with my papa, and he takes me straight to the kitchen. I thought I was in trouble, but no. He makes me justify why I want to be an astronaut. And I just tell him everything I learned from the reporter Walter Cronkite. And does two important things. First thing he does is he empowers me in believing I can do it. He validates the dream. He says, I think you can do it. We go, man, when he says that, I said, wow. My dad thinks I can be an astronaut. How cool is that? But he didn't stop there. He said, if you really want to do this, son, if you really want to do this, follow the simple 5-ingredient recipe. I said, what is that, Dad? Muy fácil, he said. First, define your purpose in life. What do you want to do when you grow up? I said, I want to be an astronaut. I figure I got 1 out of 5. I'm almost there. Second, he said, recognize how far you are from your goal. I looked at our half-peeling linoleum floor. We lived in a 2-bedroom dilapidated rental on the corner of Vine and East Street in East Side, Stockton. I said, Bobby, we can't be any further than this. Man, I thought he was going to slap me. He did. He chuckled and said, I'm glad you recognize that, son. Because the next thing you got to do is you got to draw yourself a plan from where you know where you're at, and given by your smart remarks you do, to where you want to go. You have to know the way to your destination. I said, what's the next step, Dad? You're doing it already, son. You gotta prepare yourself according to the challenge you pick. And you picked a doozy. So you know you gotta go to college and then some, right? I said, yes. He said, 5th and final, he pointed outside the kitchen window. Said, you know that effort you put picking fruits and vegetables during the weekends when school's on and 7 days a week during the summer? You know that effort? I said, see, Papa. He points to my books on the kitchen table. Said, you put that effort here. And when you graduate, you put that effort in your job. He got up saying his final words, always give more than what people expect out of you. Always give more. So you mix that up, Nico, that's the recipe to succeed. You notice there's a 6th ingredient, and that 6th ingredient is perseverance. That's the one I add. Because I'm here to tell you, NASA rejected me not once, not twice, but 11 times. And so I went to bed so happy because my dad gave me a recipe. He empowered me, believed in me. I'm going to do this thing. So I took this recipe. I graduated high school. I went to college. I went to graduate school. And then landed my first job developing an X-ray laser that was going to be deployed up in space as a defense shield at Lawrence Livermore National Lab. It's a prestigious laboratory. So I said, man, and I accepted this job because I could care less about the X-ray laser. I just cared the fact that we're going to send it up into space. I figured I could put that in my resume and it's going to look good for NASA. And now that I had a graduate degree and a job, I was eligible to apply to the NASA astronaut program. And guess what, guys? Apply I did. Oh, you guys already know the answer. I didn't get this up. But that rejection letter, that was a cool rejection letter. It was a NASA official NASA letter with the NASA meatball. It didn't have my name. It said, "Dear applicant." Like, good news, bad news, good news. First good news. Upon reviewing your application, we concur with your assessment that you meet all the minimum requirements to be considered for the NASA astronaut position. When I read that, I said, "Orale, NASA means I can be an astronaut." Then comes the bad news. The bad news is more than 18,962 people that applied to this program, to this astronaut position, also meet the minimum requirements. So competition is tough. From these 18,962, we're going to select 100 finalists. From these 100 finalists, we're going to select 10 to 15 astronauts. And we regret to inform you, you're not one of the finalists. So I'm out. Bad news. Then the good news. Remember this good news. Please feel free to reapply at the next selection cycle. I said, okay, I'm gonna apply again. Don't have the experience, maybe 1 or 2 more years experience, then I'll get selected. So I didn't give up. I worked in this project 5 years, Soviet Union broke apart, so we moved on to another project. Our instructions were simple. The lab has 12,000 people. This project only had 200. They told us, go get absorbed in other projects, find an account number, find another job within the lab. Everybody did that except 2 of us. And that was because of me. I convinced my boss. Because where there's adversity, you need to look for opportunity. I had worked 5 years here developing 3D X-ray mounted particle codes that characterizes how X-rays work in 3D or how they behave. And I thought I had a tool here. They were telling me to put it in one color, forget about it. I said, I want to do something with this. I showed it to my boss. He said, it looks like you got an answer to a question we don't know. He said, stick with me, we'll find out what that answer is. I got 6 months of funding to close up this project. I stuck with him, and you know what the question was? The question was, how do you build the first full-field digital mammography system for the earlier detection of breast cancer? We ushered in the era of large area of digital medical imaging. And when people tell me what's your proudest professional moment, it's not wearing this suit, it's not going to space. It's this because I'm one of the 2 inventors that invented the first full-field digital mammography system for earlier detection of breast cancer. We developed coding algorithms that helps the radiologist find the possible early precursors to breast cancer, like microcalcification, stellate, circumscribed lesions, asymmetric glandular distortion. All these things we were doing back in the day. And I was very proud. But I worked on this 5 years, so if you're taking note of my career, I'm 10 years into my career. And getting rejected left and right from NASA. Remember that first rejection letter? I framed that puppy, put it in the back of my wall, and when my buddies would come to my office, I would say, hey, check out on NASA, but then I get my 2nd, 3rd, 4th, 5th, 6th rejection. I guarantee you I didn't frame up that 6th rejection. Everybody has a limit. People don't like rejection. I don't like rejection. Currently my limit was 6. Because when I got that 6th rejection letter, I said, Bolita, scrunched it up. I threw it at home in my garbage can so hard, I missed. Couldn't even get that right. But guess what, guys? I was married by then. And my wife, I guess she was cleaning up. She could have got that piece of paper and threw it in the garbage. Had she done that, I would not be here to tell you this story. Curiosity got the best of her, and she saw the letter. And she's a smart lady. She said, this guy's giving up. So she comes to confront me with the letter, and I can see it's the letter because I can see the big meatball. And she's coming, and I see her coming, and guys, I'm an opportunist. I said, oh, wow. Perfect time to get some pity points from my life. Yeah, I'm going to say, poor me, pobrecito de me, NASA doesn't want me, 6 rejections. And she's probably going to do what Grandma used to do with me. Una tacita de chocolate, pan dulce, hugs and kisses. Because that's what I was looking for. I was looking for comfort. And guess what, guys? No chocolate. No pan dulce. Definitely no hugs and kisses. She just stared at me as I gave the best pity performance of my life. And she said, huh, I didn't know know I married a winner. Orale. Some fighting words. And I said, no manches, it's 6 rejections. Obviously, Hernandez doesn't want me. She says, read the last line. Remember the last line I told you to remember? Please feel free to reapply at the next selection cycle. She says, and I know you, Jose, if you don't apply, you're always going to have that worm of curiosity inside you. What if I had applied? And it's going to gnaw at you. Y sabes qué? You're going to grow up to be a bitter old man. And I don't want to be married to a bitter old man. So you better think about what you're going to do next. And she got up, and these were the magic words she said. She said, I don't know what they have that you don't have. They meaning the people that got selected. As she walked away, guess what? I couldn't answer that question. I didn't know. I was so focused in meeting the minimum requirements that I never bothered to say, what else can I do? And the best way of doing it is you compare yourself to the people you want to be like. When I did that, I found out they were all pilots. So what did I do? I invested in myself. I became visual flight rule, instrument flight rule. Then another year when I did the same exercise, they were all pilots, but so was I. So I took a deeper dive, no pun intended, and I found they were all scuba dive rated. I said, okay, la fregada, now I gotta learn how to scuba dive. Yeah, aquí en Stockton, no manches. So I had to drive 2.5 hours to Monterey every weekend. My wife thought I was having an affair. I became basic certified, advanced certified, master rated, scuba rescue certified. I want to make sure NASA knew I knew how to scuba dive. But I think what cinched the deal was, let's see, I'm just pushing this one once. Oh, that didn't work. What cinched the deal was my last 5 years, total about 15 years at Lawrence Livermore Lab. I took a job no one wanted. This is an example of you have to be strategic with your career. This is an example of sometimes you have to do things you don't like in the short run to reach your goal. In this case, remember the first project we were defending ourselves against the Russians? Now they were asking us to go to Siberia, Russia, to help the Russians take control of their nuclear stockpile. No one wanted to do it because it involved 5 or 6 trips a year to sunny Siberia, sometimes in the middle of winter. And you will stay there 3 to 4 weeks at a time. Tough duty. But you know what? I said, put me in, coach, I'll go. Not because I wanted to get to know Siberia in the middle of winter, but strategically thinking, I read that the U.S. and Russia signed an agreement to build what's going to be the International Space Station. So it didn't take a rocket scientist to figure out, even though I am one, to figure out that we were going to be working with the Russians in the near future. And I said, this is my great differentiator. I mean, how many of those 18,962 people can say they've been to Russia 25 times over the course of 5 years? How many can say they took Russian language at Lawrence Livermore Labs Nickel for 5 years and so once I did that, guess what? Welcome to the 19th class of Be careful what you wish for, guys. Because I thought the hard work was over. I thought the hard work was over. No, it wasn't. You know, it turns out you're not an astronaut when you get selected. You're an astronaut candidate. Derogatory term, ASCAN. You're an ASCAN with no rights or privileges. And for the next 2 years, you're being tested by them. Every Friday you get a written test, an oral test, and a simulator test. You learn how to fly jets, operate the International Space Station. In some cases, not only operate the shuttle, but fly the shuttle, like me as a flight engineer. Operate the robotic arm, do EVAs. And every Friday, it's like being in graduate school during final school, guys. Every Friday there's a written test, an oral test, and a skills test. You better pass it. It's highly stressful for the next 2 years, both on you, mentally, physically, and on your family. But you bond together as the 2009 or 2004 class of astronauts, and you get through it. And then you get your wings. You're no longer an ASCAN. You're a bona fide astronaut waiting to be assigned for a mission. Once you get assigned to a mission, you train for 18 months. But in the meantime, you're accumulating hours on a T-38 jet. You learn how to pilot a T-38 jet. You also do water and cold weather survival training. Cold weather was easy for me, guys. Remember, I've been to Siberia. Wyoming was a balmy spring day for me. You also do wilderness survival training. This one is very interesting. 17 days out in the wilderness. All they give you is a map. 2 X's. You're here. 17 days, we want you over here. Oh, here's a compass, so you know your way. And you get a satellite phone to be used only in medical emergency. Oh, and by the way, you gotta find your own water and food. So you eat plants, root systems, and this is where I learned, I kid you not, that squirrels taste like chicken. I kid you not. You also do lunar analog missions in the bottom of the ocean. That's why they wanted you to be a scuba diver. Spent 12 days as part of the Nemo 12 mission simulating the surface of the moon off the coast of Key Largo. And then after that, you get assigned, you train for 18 months, and guess what? It's time to go. You can see our crew there getting into the Astrovan. This is a real Astrovan. I think now they get into, I don't know, what are those cars that, what's the name has? And then once you get up to the elevator, at the launch pad, you go up to 195-foot level. You get out, right before you get into the space shuttle, they take this picture of me smirking. Why am I smirking? Oh man, it's because I'm about to realize a 37-year-old dream. I was 10 when I got first wanted to be an astronaut, 47 when I was gonna realize my dream. And then a couple of weeks before that, we have a dress rehearsal, and like a good Catholic, I have 5 kids, and my wife, with the same woman, by the way. And very proud of my kids. My oldest already has his PhD and 2 masters from Purdue. I told him, why did you go to Purdue? You know what he said? He said he made a list of all the astronauts and where they graduated. And guess which school has produced the most astronauts? Purdue. So if you guys are thinking about being an astronaut, do your graduate studies at Purdue. That's the moral of that story. My girls all graduate from high school. My youngest is going to graduate from UC Merced May 16th or 17th. And they're all STEM except one. There's always one. Vanessa, the one sitting down on the left here, on the floor here, she graduated from Loyola Marymount, Business Administration. Not that there's anything wrong with it, but it's not a STEM career. And you know what? I help her do her taxes. You know, we're talking about PhD, 2 masters in aeronautical, masters in data science, the other girl, everything. She makes more money than all. She's what's called, what they call social media influencers. So look for her. She's at the Vanessa Hernandez. TikTok, Instagram, you'll see her. I make it for myself in some of those videos, by the way. And then we're ready to blast off. I'm gonna show you the blast off video. First thing you're gonna see is the mission patch. Then you're gonna see the 3 engines light up. There's 2 solid rocket boosters. And we're off to the races. You're gonna hear our launch director give us the go. We scrubbed the launch twice. Once was a technical reason, the other was weather, but the 3rd time was the charm.
Let's be doing the vehicle's clean and the teams are go. This time Mother Nature is cooperating, so let's hope 3rd time really is the time. Believe you and your team, good luck in Godspeed.
Thanks, Pete, on behalf of the crew of Discovery. Thanks to everyone who helped prepare for this mission. Let's go step up the science on the International Space Station.
I'm going to take over the Discovery rocket riders and the Discovery, roger.
There goes the Medicap crew. Let's go ahead and check the track
Solid rocket boosters. Off to the races. Solid rocket boosters are only on for 2.5 minutes. You're gonna see a flash of light, that's when they separate. You also hear my voice because I'm the flight engineer. I give the milestones to the 2 pilots where we're at. There's a solid rocket booster separated. 3 engines remain lit. When I say cut off bug alive, it means we're about to shut down the engines. Engine cut off.
Alright, you can raise up your seat if you want to.
At this point, we're officially in space, but we have to get rid of the external fuel tank. That's our first activity.
And I'm waiting for the 20-second plus
You
second.
can see the belly of the shuttle on top,
Up in your seat there,
the
good.
tank on the bottom,
I'm waiting for 104.
separation occurs. Now we're
One potato, 2 potato. I started it at 56. I will release it at 16 after.
This is the flight deck. There's 4 of us. You see the 2 pilots in front. Then you see me give the thumbs up because I'm a bona fide astronaut. In space, everything floats now. You're floating, continuous. Ladies, want to be an astronaut? This is Nicole Staub, my colleague engineer. Christopher Fuglesson. He is from Sweden. Yours truly. Our commander coming down from the flight deck to mid-deck to change to regular clothes. Tim Corper playing with water. Nicole brushing her teeth in the morning. Jose goofing off. We were the second to last mission to finish construction of the International Space Station. So in that round cylinder in the payload bay, we have 7 tons of equipment that we have to install both inside and outside of the station. But before we do that, we have to dock physically to the International Space Station. And once we dock to it, we pressurize the docking ports, which allows us to open up the hatch on both sides. And now we got a neat little tunnel that takes us from the shuttle to the International Space Station. Once we're at the station, there are 6 astronauts waiting for us. There's 7 of us. 13 astronauts representing 5 countries. What we call it the International Space Station. We opened the door to the cylinder called the Multi-Purpose Logistics Module. Turns out removing 7 tons of equipment is pretty easy in zero G. Installing it is the tedious part. And some of that equipment we have to install outside. And how do we do that? Well, my buddies, I didn't go outside because I'm the flight engineer. I got to take care of the inside. My buddies, we help them dress in these EVA suits. They go to the air lock, they take it to vacuum. That allows them to open the hatch to the outside, and out they go for a 7-hour EVA spacewalk. So groups of 2. We did this 3 times. And typically they get at the end of the end effector, the robotic arm, and take them to the payload bay to get the equipment, and then take them to translate them to the work site. In the meantime, they get spectacular views of Earth as they're doing this. While they're doing that, we're busy working inside, installing equipment, translating the equipment where it belongs. This is Nicole playing around, filming something for her 10-year-old kid. Getting a haircut in space, this is how you do it. Shampoo, cowboy shower. I'm at the robotic workstation. Eating ups, you gotta eat in space. I'm at the rendezvous workstation. We undock from the station. It's as big as a football field. It's time to come home. We put on our orange pumpkin suits, called launch entry suits. Weather was bad in Florida, so guess what? We landed in Southern California at Edwards Air Force Base. It suited me just fine because it's my home state. Only problem is my family was waiting for me in Florida. And this landing, better than my United landing in San Francisco this afternoon. And that's the 14th mission to the International Space Station. I like to put this slide down because I said, hey, it's okay to go for lofty goals, but the important thing is you gotta enjoy the journey. Here I am training in a zero-G Vomit Comet, which is a plane that does parabolas, and on the downside you float for 28 seconds at a time. When my son got his PhD, I gifted him a commercial flight because I knew that was gonna wet his whistle. And then he was so excited. He said, Dad, I got my PhD, 2 masters, I'm learning how to fly, I'm scuba certified. What else do I do now? You know what my response was? I said, read my book. I love comparing these photos. When I got my bachelor's, this is my mom at UOP. My son, the PhDer, when he got his bachelor's at UOP, this is the picture with him and his mom, my wife. So it's a pretty neat comparison there. And then, very proud to say that we have 3 generations of PhDs, because my dad still only has a 3rd grade education. But Stanislaus State awarded him a honorary PhD. He was convention speaker. He's 89 and very active. I love this coming full circle slide, because you can see how it started. When I was 12, driving a tractor at a vineyard. 17 years ago, I got that smirk on my face because I'm about to go to space. And how's it going now? Well, I still work with Pops. We still drive a tractor, we still pick grapes, but you know what? It's my tractor, it's my grapes. Now, you not only have grapes, but with grapes you can make commercial time. No, I put this up because the whole purpose of me putting this up is that you gotta continue to reinvent yourself. Okay, you never stop and admire your accomplishment and say, okay, I can stop here. Always push yourself. I wanted to be a farmer, I did it. I wanted to learn how to make wine, I took some classes at UC Davis, and now I got my wine. I call it exploration bottle. And I'm not even a marketing genius. And then, you got books. You got Reaching for the Stars, self-penned autobiography. You got a children's book, and you got From Farm Worker to Astronaut, where I take you on my 14-day mission to the International Space Station. I tell you, Hollywood liked it so much, they said, let's make a movie. And Prime Video did. It stars none other than Michael Pena. It's called A Million Miles Away. I know what you guys are thinking. I know what you're thinking. He's not as good looking as I am. But he's a good actor. He's a good actor. Let me show you the official clip of the movie, and let me set it up for you. This is when I was courting my wife, and we were sharing each other's dreams. I told her I want to be an astronaut, and she laughed. She claimed she didn't laugh. She laughed. And since it's my movie, we filmed it my way.
What's your big goal, dream?
I want to be an astronaut.
Yeah, she laughed.
Oh my God, you're serious? Okay.
I've wanted this for almost 30 years.
Ma, ¿por qué sirven las estrellas?
Every decision I've made with the space program in mind. Who the hell are you? I'm Jose Hernandez, sir. I'm an engineer.
You're the new guy, right? That third floor metro needs toilet paper.
Going to space. It's a stupid dream. Last 10 candidates were chosen from 12,962 applicants. It's never gonna happen.
Those people who got into the program, what do they have that you don't?
They have skills that I don't have. It's taken them years to get where they are, but there's no guarantee. I know this is hard on everybody. My body hurts, I can't sleep. I know I can make this work. Over the last 10 years, I've applied to the space program 12 times, and I've been on the verge of giving up after each and every rejection. But you know what, sir? Here I am. So you can turn me down again, but rest assured, I'll be standing here again in a year.
We grew up watching our people make sacrifices. It's on us now.
Tenacity is a superpower.
This may not be your future. It will always be your past.
Who better to leave this planet and dive into the unknown than a microphone worker? You're not crying, are you, bud?
No. Dirt got into my eye.
And I promise dirt will get into your eye. You watch it. It's on Prime Video. You can still watch it tonight if you go home. And dirt will get into your eyes. I guarantee it. I want to leave you with, my dad gave us that 5-ingredient recipe. I added perseverance. But then I'm an engineer, so I'm process oriented. After I got selected, I said, how did I really get here? And I tried to simplify it as much as I could, and it came down to a 3-element strategy. The first one, almost everybody gets that. When you set a goal for yourself, you say, okay, what are the requirements? How can I fulfill these requirements to get there? Everybody does that. I knew that. That's why I went to college. That's why I went to graduate school. That's why I worked at Lawrence Livermore National Lab. But the second one was all my wife. She asked me, what do they have that I don't have? Which means you compare yourself to the people you want to be like. And be honest with yourself. And don't be afraid to invest in yourself to be like them. And then finally, you create a differentiator. What was my differentiator? Remember I told you sometimes you have to accept jobs you don't like in the short run to help you out? It was Russia. It was learning Russian. It was the fact that I was strategic enough to realize that, hey, this job is going to be good because we're going to be working with the Russians in the near future. And that was the case. So follow my dad's 6-ingredient recipe. Follow this 3-element strategy to reach your goal. And like I said, you too can reach for your own stars. I'll make you the same promise my dad made me. We have a foundation here, Reaching for the Stars. As a matter of fact, tomorrow we're going to have 1,000 5th graders at the University of Pacific campus with hands-on exploratory type of activities designed to wake up their scientific curiosity. You may want to ask, why 5th graders, Jose? How old is a 5th grader? 10. How old was I when I decided I want to be an astronaut? 10. I want to make sure they start thinking about their future early on in their lives. And this is why we designed that program. Of course, you see on my social media, and oh look, there's Tirolina Sellers. You get one there. I always tell people you should do the trifecta. People say, what's a trifecta? I say, you fire up a million miles away on Prime. Glass of wine, Tirolina Sellers. And then the book, Reaching for the Stars. Trifecta. All right, thank you very much, guys. I really do appreciate that. It was a great audience. I probably took more time than I should have, but I thought you guys were enjoying it. So, muchas gracias. Muchas gracias. There's going to be a mariachi right now, so please don't go. Hay que escuchar la música porque esta cosa se va a poner buena. All right, guys. Thank you, thank you.
Incredible. Thank you, Dr. Hernandez, for that inspiring and powerful message. Please don't go anywhere. We are continuing next with an incredible show. So please stay in your seats because we are going to continue celebrating. We're going to continue
We can go ask for a picture.
celebrating community con la música. Muchísimas gracias. One more time.
I can ask for a picture. Oh wait, he's leaving. Never mind.
Please be back to your seats.
Come on, let's go. I gotta go to the car.
But we're gonna stay here.
Fantastic. I know we're so motivated.